Okay, so I've opened up this script that we just made in VS Code, and I'm going to make a couple small modifications to it. Instead of hc.component, I'm going to use a component called PBAnimatedComponent, and that ships with that library that we just brought in from the public assets. Then you're going to get some red squigglies here. To make those go away, we just need to edit our props here. We're going to say PBAnimatedComponent.withProps. The reason we're doing this is because the PBAnimatedComponent adds a prop for the animations data that we're going to pass in here in a second. But if you want to add any sort of custom props to your component, you can still do that in this object here. For example, if I want this robot to say something with a sound effect, I could do something like, hello SFX, and that would be of type ac.proptypes.3t. So let's save that. And then to get this animated at a very basic level, you can just call this.playAnimation. I'm going to pass that an object. The animation name, in this case, is going to be our wave animation. And real briefly, I'll show you a couple other options that are available to you. One of them is speed. So if you wanted to do like a slow-mo animation, you could do 0.5. If you wanted a more exaggerated sped-up animation, you could make that 2, for example. By default, your animations will loop, so you don't need to pass loop. But if you didn't want your animation to loop, for example, if you had like an attack animation where it doesn't make much sense for it to loop, you say loop false. I'll cover the last thing that you can do here, which is these callbacks, in the next portion of this video. But anyway, that is all you need to do. Oh, one more thing. You can do stop animation. So for example, if you wanted to do some sort of freeze effect on your character, you call stop animation to freeze on the current frame. Okay, so let's save this and let it compile. And then we're going to come back in here into the editor and then scroll down here on the beep beep boop, and you'll see that he has some props down. He has one for animations. So for that, we're just going to navigate to our text asset here. This was a JSON file that contains the animation data that the Blender extension output. So to grab that, and I'm just going to drop that into here, and then I am going to hit play, and we'll see what happens. And there we go. You can see that our robot, Beep Beep Boop, is waving to us. So now I'm going to show you how to do something a little bit more complicated with the animator. So I'm back in VS Code, and I wanted to conclude this tutorial with one of the more powerful capabilities of this animation system, and that's callbacks. Callbacks are just functions that you can pass in to be called at specific points within the animation. So if I pass callbacks here, and I pass that in an object, and then within that object, I hit Control Spacebar on my Windows computer, I get a couple options here, by frame and on end. So if you imagine you have some sort of enemy character that has a death animation, and at the end of that death animation, it does something like drops loop, for example. You'd want that animation to be completely finished before you advanced to the drop loop state. In this case, you'd use the on-end callback to do that. But I wanted to show you this by frame one really quick. So I'm going to do by frame. I'm going to pass an object here. And recall that our robot, in his wave animation, his arm reaches its apex at about frame 20. So I'm going to pass 20 here, and then I'm going to pass an arrow function to that. And within that arrow function, I'm just going to say this.props.hellosfx.ashc.audio.gizmo. You're just going to play that sound effect every time his hand hits the apex of the animation. Also, just for fun, I added within this on update loop that the animator also provides a function that has the robot follow my avatar. So let's let that compile. And let's go back into the editor and see what happens.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
Nice.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
All right, that's enough of that.
Hi.
You get the point. Anyway, in the next tutorial series, I am going to go over animating a more complex character, a spider. So if you're interested, stick around and see you there.